So it is week number 4. It's going by quick. Week number 4 in the 12 weeks of total immersion. So I want to continue the conversation that we've been having. Hopefully you all are, getting the replays of these webinars, as well as, any additional recaps that I might be sending. My ideas are to do I said seminar, I think, but I meant webinar. My idea is to give you this content every single Monday as we've been doing it. And then, of course, send you the replay, as well as I typically, at some point during the week, I am kind of thinking about the content once again, and then sending a quick little recap. And that video is usually only a few minutes, maybe 4 or 5 minutes maximum. And a lot of times I'm sending that via text to you. So hopefully everybody's getting that. If not, please, reach out to me or anyone on our leadership team to make sure that you are getting that information. I think it's, valuable in helping you move things along for yourself. So today I want to talk about, the topic is going to be 5 ways to increase conversion rates. Okay, we talk a lot about conversion rates. You get leads, and then we've got to convert them. It's like it's one thing to capture them, but to convert them is a whole nother thing. And of course, that's where you as real estate professionals earn your income. It's really in the conversion, not in the capture. So I'll start off by saying 90%, if not more, 90% or more, and most people would say probably 95% or more of the buyers and sellers that are doing business, buyers and sellers. So no longer are we saying that that 90% or 95% of the buyers are starting their search online. We are saying that 90 to 95% of all buyers and sellers are starting their search or research on the buying or selling process online. But here's what I want to talk about. See, everyone goes online to do their search and to do their research. But if you think about it, they don't buy online. Now, we don't have the Amazon of real estate platform yet, right? Where Amazon allows people to research books online, and they allow people to buy books online. Real estate's different. Real estate, we do our research online, but we buy offline. That's very, very important, and I'll talk a little bit more about this. See, they may find the house that they feel that's going to meet their needs. They may find that and call us and ask them to show it to us. They may find a real estate agent that seems to be one that has the knowledge or the marketing or the experience or track record that they're looking for, and they may find that person online. But as I said, I'll repeat, they still don't do the transaction online. What they do is they do the transaction offline. So it's critical that we understand this as an agent. The internet plays a significant role in our business. It's a bigger role than it ever has. But skills, building trust, communication, building relationships, being a professional are still very important to the client. And those are all things, by the way, that you do mostly, or you demonstrate mostly offline. Like in an email, you could orchestrate the most beautiful email to one of your leads, or to maybe somebody you would even call a client. But it's really hard because they don't see your face, they don't hear your tonality or see your body language. It's just because you're transmitting an email, that doesn't mean, and it's a great email, that doesn't mean it's perceived as great communication. It's kind of just blah. It's just like it's digits, it's numbers and letters on a white space. That's really not communication. You may be sending them information, but I'm talking communication. That is something that occurs offline, not necessarily online. So your job for the buyer, of course, is to find them a home. And your job for the seller is to help put them in position, if they're thinking about selling, is to help position their property on the market in the right light, meaning at the right price or in the right condition, or however you may do your marketing. Your job for the seller is to put them in position to sell. And again, I'll repeat, All of this is done offline. So let's go ahead and talk about the 5 ideas or 5 tips that I can share with you about conversion. And as you can see, I'm talking a lot about offline versus online because the number one thing that you need to focus on is getting people offline as quickly as you can. Now, offline means off the internet. Now, we're never going to get people off the internet. That's not what I mean. But we got to make sure that we are communicating offline with our leads as quickly as we can if we want to be able to convert them at higher ratios. So, number one is understanding the difference between a prospect and a lead. Now, some people say prospects and suspects. That's a very common term that you may see if you research conversion. But I'm talking about the difference between a prospect versus a lead. This is going to be very, very important in your conversion because how you perceive your perspective of the lead or the prospect will determine your activities. See, have you ever received a lead and you're thinking, oh yeah, or maybe you received multiple leads. You're like, oh yeah, I've got all these leads. I've got it made now. Like, okay, I've got all these leads. And when we say, oh, I've got all these leads, there's a sense of security. There's a sense of like, wow, things are really progressing, like progress. Like I'm going to get something, because I've got this lead. And then you later find out that that lead or a few of the leads are 12 months out from buying. It's like when we first get a lead, there's this like feeling of, oh my gosh, I got another lead. But we don't know if it's a lead. It could be just a prospect. So a lead would be somebody that you've talked to and you've identified that they will be buying or selling within, let's just say, 30 days. That's a lead. A prospect would be somebody that's talking about buying or selling. Maybe you haven't even talked to them personally yet. Maybe it's just an email communication that has come in. And you've been going back and forth through email. You see that they're searching properties and saving some searches, but they're still only a prospect because you haven't talked to them and you don't know if they're actually buying within the next 30 days. They're still a prospect. Now, prospect and leads to me have the same value because every lead was a prospect at some point. And every prospect has the potential to turn into a lead at some point. So this has nothing to do with which one's more important. What's important about this is you understand that you really don't know if you have a lead until you've already talked to them, or at least you've gotten a confirmation that they're going to buy or sell, do a transaction within the next 30 days. Okay? Because sometimes we say, oh, I got a new lead, and then we find out they're 15, 16 months away from buying, or 2 years away from that job, that retirement age, or the retirement age where they're thinking about selling. And now all of a sudden it goes from, oh, I've got another lead to, oh, they're not serious. No. It wasn't that they're not serious. It's they are a prospect. So if we label everything a lead before we ever talk to them, that leads to disappointment when you find out that they're more of a prospect than an immediate lead. So this happens to a lot of real estate agents. They see a notification that a lead came in, they call it, and then they're let down because the so-called lead wasn't ready to buy in the next 30 days, or wasn't really ready to set an appointment to list their property within the next week or so. So this again has more to do with the unrealistic expectations that are being set by the real estate agent more so than anything else. This has nothing to do with the person itself. So we got to make sure that your leads or the names that you're getting, that you label them properly. And again, this cannot be done until after you have had good conversations with them. A conversation where you've asked them questions. Like, I'm just kind of curious. What area are you hoping to purchase in? I'm just kind of curious. Why are you thinking about buying at this time anyhow? I'm just kind of wondering what you're up to. Or, why are you selling? When you start asking those questions and that dialogue, the answers that they give you will tell you whether or not they're a lead, someone's going to do something in the next 30 days, or if they're a prospect that you're going to need to nurture until they actually become a lead. So be very careful at how you label all the people that you're getting. See, when you talk to them and you see they're a good prospect, what you need to do with them over the next few months will be different than someone you call a lead. And that's why we've got to make sure that we label them properly. See, if you label everyone a lead and then they're 12 months out, you may not do the things that you need to do when it comes to nurturing. You may just say, oh, they're not that great of a lead, and ignore them. Or they'll be kind of like low priority. We'll label them like our C leads, which is the ones that we never call. And then all of a sudden, those leads over time mature. And they become, because they were prospects, they mature and they become someone else's leads. And that person does a transaction. See, if it is a lead, you need to start showing properties immediately because they're in the buying phase. Prospects are typically in the exploratory phase. They're exploring the possibility of doing a transaction. They're showing hints that they may be a job transfer. They're thinking about retiring. They know that their child is going to college and they're about ready to start talking about downsizing. See, those are prospects. Leads, they're now ready to downsize. They're more closer to doing a transaction. See, when you call it a lead, that means, and meaning a lead is somebody who's going to do something in the next 30 days, then you need to start showing them properties today. See, that simple difference in the labeling, lead versus prospect, will determine the activities you actually do for that particular person. If they are a future prospect, then you need to nurture them. Call them once a month at a minimum. Send them a few emails, at least 2 emails every single month at a minimum. Send them a text every single month at a minimum. Now, when I said send a few emails each month, that doesn't mean let the computer automatically send them a new listing that came on the MLS. See, that's not you sending them an email. That's the computer sending them a notification of a new listing or something that's been reduced. The challenge is these people start their search online. And when they started their search online, they saw a listing and they said, I want more information. And that's how you got them. But then they moved on and were still online and they saw another listing that they had interest in. And they said, I want more information. And they actually connected online with another agent, and they probably did that 4 or 5 times. So they are getting many, many emails with notification and alerts about new properties. So that doesn't count as you're sending them an email. Yes, have those alerts set up because that's important. But when I'm talking about future prospects and nurturing them, it's you calling them at least once a month, you emailing them at least 2 times a month, and I'd say 2 times is the right amount, and you sending them a text. And it could be, hey, I know that you're still, admission it's still going to be in August before you do something, when your son is going to be going off to college. But please just let me know if there's anything I could do for you in the meantime, just to help you with your research. Like that would be a text you could send. That could be an email you could send. That could be the nature of the call. But either way, in order to make sure that your prospects turn into your leads who are going to buy or sell through you, that's the type of communication that you have to have. So your prospects are still online looking at properties. These prospects, they're months away, right? They're still online looking at properties. So you need to stay in communication with them or they'll become the lead of another agent. Don't be discouraged when you get prospects that you have to be nurtured. Don't be discouraged because, see, the top agents around the country are the ones that are able to set up systems for themselves where they can receive many, many leads, and they can work with, or they can receive many, many contacts. They can work with the leads that are ready now, but they have the ability to nurture hundreds of leads at one time, or hundreds of prospects. I'm sorry, even myself, it's sometimes difficult to go back and forth with prospect and leads. But you got to understand, don't be discouraged, because if you're waiting for the perfect lead that doesn't have to be nurtured, then yes, you will find a few here and there. But it's the prospects that you nurture and stay in touch with for long periods of time that creates the income and wealth you deserve. Number two, I kind of touched on this a little bit, and I'm going to hammer it down a little bit more. Number two is get offline quick. So the first point was to make sure that you understand the difference between prospects and leads. Number two, get them offline quick. Remember, buyers and sellers may do their research online, but they will do the transaction offline. The longer you have an online relationship with your leads, the greater the chances that, an online relationship with your leads, the greater the chances are that they'll end up with another agent. So the longer you stay online with them, and all of your communication is online, the greater the chances that they're going to end up going to another agent, because the other agent, it'll be out of the 4 or 5 agents that they're online with, they're online dating these agents, right? Well, the first one that takes that relationship offline has the best chances of doing the transaction. And you've got to understand, email conversations in drips, though they are necessary, they are very unreliable in terms of converting leads into contracts. So yes, you have to send them the emails. You have to make sure that they're getting the notifications, but that's all still online stuff. And it's critical. We can't stop the online communication, but what we have to do is increase the intensity of the attempts to get them offline, to get them on the phone. See, when the internet is between you and your leads or your prospects, you can't create a strong connection, because you're not likely the only agent that they're talking to and getting those emails from at the time. Nothing has occurred in your relationship to cause them to be loyal to you and to actually do a transaction with you if your entire conversations have been online. You see, I'm really beating this topic up. I'm really hammering this in, because this is one of those simple things where when you start using let me go back to, if anybody has text friends and their spouse or their children. If you ever text friends, your spouse, or children, have you noticed, since texting has actually become a common way to communicate, that we've actually become more disconnected? It's like, have you ever thought, like, gosh, instead of getting up out of the chair and walking upstairs to talk to so-and-so, I'll just text them? And then it's like, hey, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? Well, you choose. Okay. Well, that's how it sometimes goes in my house, right? And then sometimes I think about this and I'm like, wow, though I can text with this person, I'm actually finding it to be efficient, but the connection that I have is really poor. Yes, no, okay, see you in a minute. Like, that's the whole dialogue. Like, if we were having face-to-face dialogue, that conversation would be totally different than if we're doing this over an email or a text. And what you have to understand, you want to leverage this in your favor as a real estate agent, because that's what most real estate agents are doing. They are actually finding that it's easier to stay online. It's easier to communicate online. Everything's online. If I have to talk to them, I don't want to do business with them. If they can't email, if they don't use email and text, then I don't even want to work with them. Well, gosh, where are we going with this? We need to kind of reverse this trend as a company, and we need to say, you know what, we're going to have more real conversations at a time where everyone in the industry is having less real conversations. And it's kind of like the person who just sends a text, happy birthday, versus the person that sends a card in the mail, handwritten with a real stamp that says happy birthday. Which one has the biggest impact? The card that you get in the mail. Yeah, but that's old school, but it's the biggest impact. Talking to people offline is old school. Yes, but it has the bigger impact. And the biggest impact is going to move your conversion ratios extremely high. Number 3, the game is all about speed to lead. We've talked about it many times, and until we pretty much can reach our goals of communicating with people immediately, we have to continue to talk about this. See, right now it used to be return calls in 15 minutes. Then it went to 5 minutes. Now it's 2 minutes. You only have 2 minutes after you receive a notification to call and connect with these prospects or leads. You only have 2 minutes. It won't be long before you'll have to connect immediately, or the industry is just going to pull the lead from you. Now, this is not a company requirement. This is not necessarily a company policy that I'm referring to. This is a consumer requirement. This is the consumer's policy. This is the consumer demanding this on them. For those that work Zillow, we know that Zillow has moved to a direct connect type of system. If they generate a lead for us and they send it to us and we don't take that lead in real time, they send it to our competition and don't refund us for the lead, because they don't promise leads anymore. They promise opportunities. And if they deliver the opportunity, they can check it off the list that's already done. And if we miss the opportunity, shame on us. That's how Zillow works. Now, why does Zillow work that way? Zillow works that way because because Zillow once didn't work that way. They were sending leads to companies and to agents, and agents wouldn't call them back. And the consumer got mad, and they would call up Zillow and say, Zillow, your agent didn't call me. And they actually were saying, Zillow, your agent didn't call me. And all of a sudden, Zillow was getting a bad reputation for never returning people's call. It wasn't Zillow's responsibility to return calls. They didn't want to return calls. It was the agent's responsibility, but we failed in that as an industry. So Zillow decided, well, in order to protect their brand and their reputation, they're going to have to take the calls immediately so the consumer will be satisfied, and then they give it to us. And if we're not there to take it because they still got the buyer or the seller on the phone, they have to give it to our competition. They have to give it to somebody who will take the call live. Now, I just talk about Zillow. There's many companies that are going to that system, which means the consumer's being trained right now. The consumer's being trained to check on a property, request information, and get an immediate connection. So it's the consumer that's demanding this. So when we as a company keep speaking about speed to lead, it's like, if we don't do this, the consumer's going to leave us. It's not about us trying to control you. It's about the consumer controlling us, and we must respond. See, when you respond within 2 minutes or less, the chances of you winning the business increases significantly. The longer you take, the less likely you will connect, because they're now moved on and they're doing other things. So we have to call them immediately. And then we have to call them multiple times that day, 3 or 4 times that day. And if you don't get in touch with them, then you've got to text them or call them again. See, the first agent that contacts them offline, the first one that makes that connection will win the battle, and most of the time do the transaction. Number 4, have patience. It takes time, but it's worth it. Let me remind you, we're talking about conversion here. See, conversion, starting with number one, is making sure that we label the lead properly, right? Because if it's a lead versus a prospect, then that label will dictate what activities we actually give towards that person. And the activities will determine whether or not we convert the lead or we're there when the prospect turns into a lead. And then number two, it's about get them offline quick. About let's stop texting our family members and pick up the phone and call them. I know they're going to be shocked, but when they hang up, you're going to make them feel way better than they actually would have felt if you would have just sent them the text. That's why we got to get them offline. And when we make when we are making people feel better because we had a real conversation with them, we're increasing our chances of converting that lead. And then we talked about game of speed to lead. It's like if we're getting all these leads and we're talking to them very fast, we increase our chances of doing business with that lead. Number four, have patience. It takes time, but it's worth it. So on this, in this particular section, we have to understand that leads that come off the internet, on average, take about 18 months to convert. That's a lot. So that's a lot of prospects, and that's a lot of time before those prospects are really leads that convert to transactions. Now, some of you may say, yeah, but it seems like my leads convert a lot faster. Yes, the leads convert a lot faster, but the prospects don't. And most people focus so much on just the leads that are ready to do business now, and they lose focus on all the prospects. So yes, it may feel that it doesn't take 18 months to convert somebody, but it's because we're cherry picking the best of the best, and we're really not taking full advantage of all these people that we're building these databases with that are telling us, yes, I'm going to do something, but it's still going to be 12 months out. Those are the ones that we drop, and we hope that they actually come back to us when they're ready. The challenge is what they do come back when they're ready, but it typically isn't to us. The internet's where people are starting their search, as I mentioned, but most of them, of course, because they're taking so long, this is where we have to go in and set up the systems to nurture them. We must nurture them. Now, I talked a little bit earlier about nurturing, and I'll talk about it a little bit more before we hang up from this webinar, but I just want you to understand that you have to have patience. Don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Like, people I see real estate agents getting discouraged because it feels like, oh gosh, now I got to have another system to nurture. Yes. That's because the consumer's changing the way that they're actually buying real estate. They're changing the way that they're searching, and they're changing the way that they're researching. So it's causing us to have to change our ways or we lose the business. So the point here is to don't get frustrated. Look at the tools that we have available for you and implement a few of those tools. Set people up on those sold searches or save searches for new properties and reductions. Go ahead and make sure that they're receiving a newsletter. Create a video and send them a video. These are all things that you can do inside of your nurturing program. But the key is be patient. Don't get frustrated because you're getting leads these days that require more nurture. In the old days, the leads, when we got them, they were ready to buy. Because, see, they didn't have access to information on the internet. They just came to us because they saw our sign. There was no MLS, and we had this book with all these listings in it that was printed every single week that, they had to come to us to access that information. So by the time when we got a lead, they had already seen a yard sign. They were a quality lead. Now the internet comes along and gives them information. So now real estate on the internet's become entertainment. So we're now capturing people, prospects and leads sometimes when they're in the exploratory or even the dreaming phase, not only the buying phase. See, there's the buying phase, there's the exploratory phase, and there's the dreaming phase. People are dreaming, so they're just searching for entertainment purposes. Now, all of a sudden, they're exploring because they're thinking about making a move, but they're still a year out, so they're just researching school systems. And then eventually they transition to the buying phase, We used to only get leads when they were in the buying phase, so we were really spoiled. It was pretty fun when you get a lead, make a sale. Now we're getting them in the dreaming, in the exploratory phases, which should be great for us because now we're getting more leads. We have access to more people. It's just we have to be patient. Don't quit on these leads because they're not willing to do something today. That's going to actually help you in your conversion. And the last one here is about the nurture. If you're going to make all this work and you're willing to be patient, then your patience is going to pay off when you're willing to stay in communication with these prospects for the next 24 months. I know it's like, oh my gosh, but we have it every single day. I see where I can send out texts and I can run some, really quick contact junkie type campaigns on people where people have been brought into our database. No agent has talked to them, and I can run a campaign on that. And within, say, 48 hours, I can find leads that have been in databases for the last 2 years, and agents have given up, and there's deals being made. The need for nurture is more now in our industry than it ever has been before. Nurturing our prospects is how you're going to get the majority of your leads in the future. By nurturing, we must understand there's more prospects than there are leads. So if you're nurturing a big pool of prospects, and you're accepting a small portion of leads, the leads that will, the incubation, the nurturing of this big pool of prospects will end up producing more leads that want to do something than the leads that we can produce. It's just surely because the number of prospects is a bigger number, like way bigger. Like one lead and 30 prospects. So over time, you keep those ratios are going to pan out where the prospects is going to be where the majority of your business comes from. For some of you, and a lot of us, that's not where the majority of our business comes from. And it should be. And the access to that is go through the systems that we have, whether it be Real Geeks, whether it be KV Core, whether it be Infusionsoft, whether it be Contact Junkie. There's some additional things I'm about ready to launch that's going to be very exciting for you to nurture your databases. And we'll be doing that all company-wide. So it's going to be fun to announce pretty soon. But you need to look at all those tools and decide what is your nurture program. And it's okay if your nurture programs vary from agent to agent. Just make sure they have at least one call, 2 emails, and 1 text, in addition to any automatic searches that you may be sending them. So the need to nurture is here. It's been here. We have to get on board. Make sure you have patience. I'm going in reverse here. Make sure you understand winning the game of the speed to lead is critical. You gotta, hopefully, if you take nothing else but this one point away, and that's get people offline a lot faster. Get them offline, start relating offline, and stop trying to build relationships online. That right there will make a huge difference to you immediately. And then understanding the value of properly labeling your leads, your prospects. Make sure that you're treating your prospects like prospects and treating your leads like leads. Hopefully you found that information helpful. I think there's a lot of nuggets there that you can take away. As I said, I will be sending this replay out later in the week. And if you need anything in the meantime, just reach out to me. I'd love to help you. Talk to you soon.